Part of the reason I'm not happy, I guess angry is not the right word, but I'm not happy. This thing called bipartisanship, reaching across the aisle, using the other side to come across with some kind of bargain. Well, I think the bargain that we have was a corrupt bargain, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of corrupt bargains, but with the way this bipartisanship is smelling, it's really hard to breathe in the Republican Party. So I'm going to say my hands are up and I can't breathe. You know, I borrowed that from a couple of people who have been using it. And just a small comment about the notion about hands being up, don't shoot. There's nobody in this country who doesn't agree with it. If anybody has their hands up, nobody should shoot them. But the facts, they are ignoring the facts. Makes them ignorant. Gruber wasn't correct about the people being stupid. They're not stupid. Matter of fact, they're pretty smart. They know how to use the government. They know how to get what they want from the government. But what they are is ignorant. They are ignorant. They ignore the facts. They will go around saying, hands up, don't shoot. He didn't have his hands up. The facts are in. We can have that debate another time. That's not what this is about, but I want to talk about a corrupt bargain. Some of you may not know that one of our members, our congressman, Terry Bentivoglio, did a thing, and I'm sure he honestly believed it was the right thing to do. I'm confused about it. I'm not going to criticize Terry Bentivoglio for what he did, but what I'm going to ask the question is this. First of all, let me clue you in what he did. There's a Rules Committee in the House. A thing can't come down to the floor for a vote unless it passes through this committee. Now, this appropriations bill for Obamacare, for executive amnesty to fund that, there was abortion funding in this bill. There was a lightening up of the Dodd-Frank bill, which people on both sides of the aisle are really are for that, and people on both sides of the aisle are against that. But I honestly believe this corrupt bargain that was done in back rooms was more to the point of the Dodd-Frank letting up. To bail out banks when they get ready to collapse. I think it's what is the underlying. And you know who bails them out? It's not the government that bails them out. The government doesn't bail a bank out. It's those who pay taxes. I heard the other day somebody, I think it was Mike Huckabee, said, politicians don't work for the people. That is a very bad statement when he says, I'm working for the people. That's a lie. Who they work for is the voters. You see, the voters is who they want to be held accountable to, or want them to vote. The people who are out there are people who will benefit by the mindset that they put in office. The ignorance or the willingness to ignore the facts, that's my determination of ignorance. It's what Hillary called a willing suspension of disbelief. Now, if you can understand, break that statement down. You are willing to suspend your disbelief. Now, you have this thing that you don't believe in. In order to get the goodies from government, you have to suspend that disbelief and go ahead and vote anyway. That's ignoring a thing. Such as the black folks with an agenda are ignoring the fact that he didn't have his hands up. The evidence is in. It's evidence. It's witness. It's the testimony of all the people that looked at all of it. So I don't want to go there, but the thing I want to talk about is ignoring the fact. Now, why is it that my question for Kerry, whenever we see him again, he's already given me an email trying to explain it. And by the way, I'm complimented by the fact that we have a U.S. House of Representatives, a congressman, who believes he's accountable to us and to people like us. It's not just us. It's a lot of people who got Kerry elected. He'll be here, and he will take some hard questions. But my question won't be what were you thinking about, is it good or bad to let this go to the floor? He changed his vote. See, there were two votes shy in the House. If in the committee, it has to be a majority vote before it can go out of the committee. This vote, in order to let this bill go to the floor, was one vote shy of being tied. In other words, somebody had to change their vote in order for it to be tied, and that happened. There was a Republican, and I forget his name. He changed his vote, and then it became tied. Now, what my question is to Kerry Bentivolio, I love him, I still respect him. I'm disappointed that I can't understand why he changed his vote after it became tied. It's not a matter of what you think about the bill. It's a matter of you changed your mind about the bill. Now, Kerry might be able to say, I didn't vote for the bill on the floor. I think probably he didn't. But the fact of the matter is, it wouldn't have been to the floor if it wasn't for Kerry's vote. Kerry's changed vote. So my question will only be to Kerry Bentivolio, and when Kerry gets to see this tape, I respect you, Kerry, I love you, but I have a question as to why you changed your vote. I want to know the criteria of the change. What your mindset was when you voted once, or you had said that you were going to vote against it going down to that floor, and then something happened and you changed your mind. I say, as Michelle Bachmann, Louis Gohmert, that there was a deal cut. And I'm calling it a corrupt bargain. And that has a very, in the history of this country, the word corrupt bargain has a very long history. The original corrupt bargain was Andrew Jackson in the country. I'm going to go back to the first one that in history was recorded. But it wasn't really a bargain. It's when Lucifer took Jesus up on the mountain and tried to bargain with Jesus about, if you look here, I will give you. Look at all this, I will give it to you. And I'm thinking Jesus must have thought, he's trying to bargain with me to give me something I already own. And it must have been funny to Jesus. So there was no bargain struck there. And there was no corruption in Jesus' thinking. But the other corrupt bargain with Andrew Jackson was this. Well, I'm not going to get to the content of the bargain, but I'll get to the effect of it. It was the Trail of Tears. Now, up until a while back, I thought that I had two great uncles who marched in the Trail of Tears. It was a movement of the Cherokee Nation from Florida to reservation, and Andrew Jackson did it by executive order. He did it against the will of the Congress. He did it against the will, and the Congress said, we're going to take you to the, we're going to sue you, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court. You know what Andrew Jackson said about that? Let the Supreme Court stop them. That's what he said. Okay, so there was a corrupt bargain there, and it wasn't a good thing for Native Americans. And I think, folks, that this bargain is as corrupt because this vote that Kerry gave, I don't think Kerry's corrupt, but the vote that Kerry gave is the most significant vote a congressman has placed before the House in the history of the House. My opinion. I don't think there will ever be a more significant vote, because here's why. I think that there is going to be this financial collapse that we talk about an awful lot, or that I talk about, and you have to hear whenever you come to hear me speak. When we don't have a speaker, you have to hear me a lot. But let me tell you something, folks. There's a reason that this is the shining city on the hill. A little bit of history about this country that I don't want to bore you, but this country, you can't give history on this country and be bored with it. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to play with you a little bit. We owe an awful lot to Islam. We owe a lot to Islam. Right now you guys are thinking, Dennis, what is it that you're talking about? Well, let me tell you something. Bear with me, because you know me. The reason we owe a lot to Islam is the Ottoman Empire, Genghis Khan, and Khan. Why is it that those two elements in the history are so significant to this country? It has to do with water. Did you ever wonder why castles have a moat around them? You don't have to wonder about it. It was for protection. You have to cross, it's a little harder to cross the water. Sometimes you put alligators in it, right? Okay, the United States, this land has 2 oceans. And these oceans have been the best friends of this country. These 2 oceans have caused it to be logistically, almost until the age of the new age of technology, it has been almost impossible for Genghis Khan or the Ottoman Empire to attack this country like they did, both of those elements, in every single country in the European history. Why is that important to us? Because this country was formed by, let me be careful now, the European bankers saw that their empires could have protection of the waters. That Genghis Khan, not necessarily so much him, but the Ottoman Empire, who had ravaged countries, and Israel, by the way, and had caused the, what's it called, the dispersion of Israel throughout the European and Russian nations. And those people ended up coming to this place. But what ended up coming here, and listen, this will come hold true to you. Where is the big money state? It's New York. It is the Empire State. They have an Empire State Building. So what happened was, when the threat, see, England used to also have water around it, but wasn't big water, and the ships could get to it. And there was this problem of protecting the European bankers' empires, the Rothschilds, you know, all of the history of the one world government crowd, which is actually what's going on here. So they thought they were going to lose everything because they couldn't fend off this attack from the Islamists, the Ottomans. Even Genghis Khan, the Mongolians were Islam. Did a little research on it, that, you know, not the authority on it, did a little research on it. But these are raging hordes. These will knock over your empire. But you know what? They couldn't do it in America. We gave protection to empire here. It became known as capitalism. And there was another big thing that came along before those people wanted to come here to protect their empire. The thing that came here was a moral and a Christian people. We've spent time on that before about who founded this country and the principles it was founded on. So the culmination of moral and principled Christian people founding a nation and having it protected from the Islamists. I want to have trouble for saying that from people. I want people to challenge me for saying that because the facts are there. I won't ignore them because you know what? I'm not ignorant. And I will not pretend to be ignorant to ignore something that this country is getting ready to have severe calamity of collapse because of. Another great corrupt bargain was struck in 1970. It was when, 70 or 71, when Henry Kissinger, at Richard Nixon's behest, went to Saudi Arabia and the OPEC nations and struck this petrol dollar bill bargain. Just a little bit of setup time previous to that, we just went off the gold standard. The reason we had to go off the gold standard, Nixon took us off of it, was because our money was based on gold. Okay, that's what the gold standard is. But we were printing so much debt. We were giving so many goodies to the progressive, liberal, Democrat mindset. I'm going to say it. Okay, I'll take the criticism. No, that's okay. We were spending more money than we had to spend. So Germany and other countries were getting very worried about their gold that we were holding for them. So they started turning in their treasury bills that was backed by gold, and they wanted their gold. Well, the problem, the dirty little secret is we didn't have all the gold to match the treasury bills. There was a little accounting problem there. So Nixon said, hey, thank you, we better